I can't speak for any other race of people except for my own, and I can really only speak for myself. Ever since I got into this professionally, every time I have what I used to call back in the day race baiting clients, it physically, cathartically made me feel better. I'm from the South. I'm from the rural South, Mississippi, the rural South. So anyone who sees this will absolutely know what I'm talking about. I have been dealing with racism since I was 14 years old, and non-knowingly since I was born. So being a jump off point to be able to get out some of my own anger, because I don't know about you, but I've had a white man tell me to my face when I was trying to go to college, if you were my daughter, I wouldn't let you take out a student loan to go to a junior college. And I think that was my first Domme moment when I stood up at his desk and said, things to let you know. You can't deny me this loan because I'm trying to get an education. And if I was your daughter, I'd probably be white and probably would not need this money to attend school. So when someone comes to me, when I first started out, I always put that man's face on their body. And it always made it so much easier for me. It made me feel better. It gave me a power that I was not allowed to have anywhere else in society. So like when people are like, oh, I can't believe you do that kind of stuff. Be a woman who has dealt with abusive men your entire life, and then someone give you the opportunity to abuse a man and not go to jail for it. Most women are going to jump on that boat because we all have that one moment of, ooh, if I could have it back, what I would say to that guy who pissed me off that day, or that dude who told me that I was looking like a whore because I was wearing my own clothes that he didn't help me purchase. I get that out of my domination with race flow. For those moments when I can't have my black girl magic moments, that's where I get my black girl magic. I know it sounds kind of hokey, but it is what it is.
Hey, so for me, obviously, as a black woman, everybody knows we're one of the most oppressed races and genders of people on the planet. So it's incredibly empowering for me to be able to use my race as a strength. Especially in Britain, in the UK, you know, they promote a lot of colorblindness here. It's a case of everybody's the same, but in that respect, they actually don't understand the differences between us. And when we say something is particularly offensive to someone like me or anybody of color, you know, white people don't really get it. And actually even black people, I would say, don't get it also sometimes, because as I say, it's completely the case of everybody trying to be equal here. When it works to a certain extent, and other you know, places it doesn't work so much. So it's incredibly empowering for me, because even when I first started doing domination, I'll admit I wasn't actually identifying myself as a black woman, because to be black in this country was to be embarrassing. You know, they would make you feel so different here, that through the scene and through this work, I've actually been able to embrace my blackness. I have. And it's been the white male submissives that has enabled me to gain that strength and that confidence that I've always wanted to have, but there's never really been a forum for it. So now, from that, I can talk freely about being black. I can talk freely about the issues I face being black and being a woman as well. I can talk about the different discriminations that I've experienced, and my safe place to do that is with my submissives. But my confidence now has gained to be able to talk about it in other areas of my life. There are times though that I do try and have these same conversations as I am having about race in the vanilla world, and it just hasn't worked. It just has not worked. People are not ready to have those kinds of conversations. So the kink and fetish world gives me such power, confidence, and as I say, a safe space to be able to talk about race.
Yeah, I mean, what you said really resonated with me, because I have very similar experiences. You know, I'm very aware of my appearance, and I'm very aware that I have, you know, a lot of white privilege. But, you know, other people need to be aware of how oppressed my ancestors were. And even just going right down to my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, because you know what? I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, and, you know, my direct relatives, my grandmother, great-grandmother, and mother, you know, they said that we were Sicilian. Now, nationality wise, we were Sicilian, meaning that my ancestors spent a very short amount of time on Sicily, maybe 200 years on Sicily. Before it was Sicily, it was during the Byzantine Empire, so it wasn't Sicily at the time. It's Sicily now, so my ancestors had to sort of gravitate to the white and hold on to, oh yeah, we're white, and ignore the fact that no, we're not white. We were whitewashed. Okay, we were, our land was colonized. And even if I look, my mother was raped by a white man, my grandmother was raped by a white man, my great grandmother was raped by a white man. So that's 3 generations directly linked to me, that were their ethnicity and their bloodline was diluted by these men that forced themselves onto these women. And so it gives me an opportunity to be able to really talk about these things and bring these things to light in a way where I don't have to be so sensitive about other people, because I'm very aware that Black people that are darker than me don't have the same experiences that I have. I have a lot of the white privilege that I'm talking to my white clients about. The difference is I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of what colonization and whiteness and the white race has done to my people. So I have a very unique position because, some people see me as white and some people don't. And I think that if I don't express my heritage, first of all, I think it's an insult to my ancestors, because my ancestors were warriors, and, they were strong, powerful people, even my direct relatives, my grandmother, my mother, my great grandmother. And so it gives me a space to be empowered and embrace my own ethnicity, and sort of, it gives me space to talk about that, because I do have to be sensitive about, talking about, how race affects me around people who are more severely affected by race, because I could take this off and I could blend in and I could infiltrate. Whereas somebody who, any one of you ladies don't have the same ability and privilege to be able to do that. You can't take your skin off, And so it gives me an opportunity to sort of find people that I relate to and embrace and feel empowered about my own, ethnicity. So I think it's great when I have the space to be able to do that.
Yeah, I have to agree with both of you guys on that one. I feel like it's the same for me. Especially with Indians, it's like with Indians in England, it's almost like we went through the colonization, we went through the rape and the slavery, went through all of that, but it's not spoken about because it's almost like it's all been put to rest. And we're the first generation educated, British speaking, that can actually talk about the fact that there's still things that haven't been dealt with. There's issues in our country that haven't talked about Indians. So in this matter at hand, Indians are really odd because we do have a privilege compared to Black people in this country, but it's not the same privilege that white people have. But I don't think we face the same type of racial oppression, and being brown people expect that you do, or they expect, oh, you're Indian and you don't. I feel like race play and the conversation again is about dialogue. Whatever form it comes in, it's happening. And I've noticed more so in race play than having a debate with someone in vanilla world makes more of a difference. People are way more, they're in their submissive, vulnerable place already anyway. So they're listening, they're with you because they trust you, you're their Domme, especially with long-term subs. And so it's a chance to educate people in a way that you probably wouldn't get to do it ordinarily. And there's a lot there to talk about. So yeah, I agree with you both on that one. It's the same for me.
I'm really enjoying hearing your perspectives, because I think, I'm hearing that you're engaging with race in a very targeted way in your play, whereas for me, it's kind of an adjacent thing that has come up as a result of what I want from my relationships. And I feel like I'm very much at like a beginner stage of the possibility of understanding. But when I did start to engage with this, and I think I'm still at a very low level way of engagement, it's like I can speak English, but I grew up mostly in Asia, and I have this framework that is very Asian focused, and I didn't understand the extent of the privilege that a white man has, the ability to move through the world, or even just men in general. It's not something we talk about at all, and it's not something we acknowledge at all. And the dynamic that I was able to have, I was able to sit in a position where I could say what I wanted to say and think about what I really felt and bring that to our dynamic. And that is actually teaching me a lot about what is fair in the world.
Yeah.
Is teaching me about, no, that's not okay that you think like that. No, that's not okay that you walk like that and you don't have to think about this. That's not okay that you just think this is going to be that way. But if I didn't have this position of authority, because they come to us in a position of vulnerability, I wouldn't have been able to teach myself that, and therefore teach them the way that I see the world and make them see with bigger eyes also. So in a way, I really feel like I am kind of just cracking this topic, but it has already shifted a lot about how I feel about justice in the world, even though I didn't target it directly. It's just an element that's shown itself, and it's showing me a lot personally.
On my Twitter, I actually posted a tweet and I said, if anybody's into racial humiliation, please DM me. You know, I want to find out more about it personally, because obviously I only have my experience and my perspective to go on. From that, I had over 100 people contact me, submissives, other dominatrices, so that they enjoy it. And there was a few messages that I got. If you wouldn't mind, I'd share a few of them. And I asked particular words that they wanted to be called. So remember, these are submissives asking for this. I bookmarked a few. I had, and the key ones actually I really wanted to find are the ethnic minority people who actually do engage in race play, and they do enjoy it. It's something that they actively seek out. So there's a couple of black submissives, male submissives. They actually do like to be called the N-word. I mean, I'm going to put screenshots of these just to show that I'm not making this up. They like to be called N-word, porch monkey. They like to be racially humiliated. The harsher, the better. And the reasons why was, I guess I enjoy being racially humiliated by white women because it's so taboo and it's so wrong. And against what my real life is, which is pro-black on everything. The racial humiliation maybe feels like the white women in the clips I buy are reaffirming the worst racial stereotypes, and I believe them to have of black people. I hope that's not confusing. So that's what one person said. I've got another one, which this is another black submissive. He said, "Black, I prefer to be humiliated by white women. I like to be called the N-word, coon, and other racially humiliating words. I enjoy it because I'm tired of how everybody is such a sensitive bitch these days, especially in the black community, how black women think they have the monopoly over us. I enjoy being humiliated by a white woman as an escape for this BS." So the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because I think if me as a black woman can say that, then, you know, it doesn't mean that I've got any sort of bias or any reason to you know, I can't be judged by society for representing a black submissive there, you know. So that's some of the things that they say. I think the way to understand people is like what we're doing here, just having a conversation about it, reaching out to people. The main problem we have is obviously the fact that our kinks are now seem to be explored in front of the eyes of however many thousands of followers we have on Twitter. And those people are a mix of obviously people in the community and people outside of the community. And it's the people who are outside of the community that are judging us, and then also the people within the community that haven't had that much experience that are bringing certain elements in. Obviously, you know, we've talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. There are obviously people in America which feel that black submissives should not be racially humiliated at all at this time. But it's not up to anybody to say that they cannot explore their kink or fetish or taboo anywhere. It's not up to any of us to say so. We can choose to decline as individuals if it doesn't suit. Like, I won't as I say, use slurs and things like that. I'm not comfortable with doing that, but I'm not going to stop them and say, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that, because I have no jurisdiction over somebody like that. I don't. In my space, if you come to me and you're in my space, I am the one in control of that space. But if it's an inquiry, no, I'm not gonna try and shame you, because where else do the submissives go then? This is their community, this is our community, and inside it we have to learn to be more accepting. So I think the way we understand more is just, as I say, just keep talking and listening to our submissives.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, first of all, I'm a fetish specialist because I really dive into fetishes, and I have learned about fetishes on a molecular level, on a biological level, and on a psychological level, as well as a social level. You know, so I've dived into the psychology to these things, and I understand, and I think that this is what a lot of people outside of the kink community don't understand, is that, you know, exercising these kinks from a position of power can help us overcome these things. So I get, you know, men who are in America, they're coming from a place where they ruled, they were very comfortable. Nobody's discriminating, you know what I mean? Nobody's discriminating against my Persian men from Iran when he's in Iran. He's not, you know, my Saudis, when they're in Saudi Arabia, they're king. They come here and they're not king anymore. And being able to act these things out, because you know what, it is a culture shock, a shock to them when people are calling them, you know, names and degrading them because they're Muslim, and, you know, telling them they're wearing a dress because they're in their garb and things like this. And, you know, it does hurt them. It is, you know, just because they're men and they're strong doesn't mean that they don't have feelings, and it hurts them. So being in a safe space with somebody like me to desensitize them, because they know I don't mean it. They know that my experiences are similar to theirs. They know that I respect them and that they are king when they're with me, because they treat me as queen. So being able to break these things down in a safe place where they could talk about their feelings, because you know what, it doesn't end, oh, get the fuck out of here when it's over. When it's over, we talk about it. You know, when the play is over, what do you learn? How do you feel? You know, this is how I really feel, correct? You know, that this is, because I also use a little bit of truth. You know, I'm not really lying. I'm just shifting my attitude. You know what I mean? If I'm talking to you one-on-one, I might talk about the truth in a very soft, delicate way. But if we're playing, I'm going to just give it to you harshly. You know, so understanding that people use kink as a way to overcome and confront things, you know, things that they're afraid of, things that hurt them, in a position of power with somebody that they trust, so that it doesn't hurt so much when it comes from somebody that they don't trust, who really believes this, and just reaffirming their strengths. Because when I talk about their weaknesses, I am also reaffirming their strengths, okay? Because I'm pointing out their potential and what they can do and how they can handle it. Yeah. And just acknowledging that in this moment, maybe you're not, you know, sometimes you don't meet your full potential, but this is your full potential. This is where you can be. And, you know, they see themselves in me, you know, I'm a reflection of them. So the more powerful and the more strength I present to the table, you know, they see that in themselves. And so I think that it pretty much just showing the outside world that this is a way for people to be empowered. And, you know, it's not, like you said, Ms. Fox, it's not our place to decide what's healthy or not healthy for somebody else. You know what, these people are strong enough and they're smart enough and they know themselves well enough to know whether or not they are self-hating themselves, if they're doing self-harm. And you know what, guess what, as a dominatrix, I can also tell if somebody's suicidal when they walk in the door, if they're depressed when they walk in the door, if they're walking out. You know, listen, if he's crying, I'm not kicking him out of my house. You know, I'm not kicking him out of my dungeon. You know, I'm waiting until he's together and he's okay before he leaves. You know, we can identify whether or not somebody is self-harming themselves and, you know, be able to call a scene or not do it at that time. But, you know, to say, you know, I think it's really insulting when people try to tell other people what they're strong enough for.
Well said.
That's knowledge and experience right there, though. That is literally knowledge and experience right there. When you think about people who are saying that we shouldn't do this, it's because they don't have the knowledge and experience to understand what racial humiliation and racial play actually is. And we are always being governed by people who just don't know. So we just need to keep talking like this. Absolutely. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think it is largely people who don't understand. They've never done race play. They've never probably had a DM from someone say, can you call me this and this, and gone through the shock and then the motions of processing that information of how do we do this? Because women are resourceful. We know how to do something in different ways. That there's one way of doing things, there's another way of doing this, other way. And that's what I think, bringing it to the forefront. Men wouldn't be able to bring something like this to the forefront. It takes women and their minds to do that. And I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen with women in a safe place, in kink, in our fetish world. That's where it will start. I also think that race play comes from somewhere. It's by no means just something that you stumble on. It grows. It comes through lack of education or understanding, lack of understanding or too much understanding. It comes from somewhere. From what I find in race, especially since we get, with Pakistani guys in particular, you can see it quite clearly that there's something there. There's a dynamic. There's something to work with. There's some understanding. It's created from somewhere, and so it's not a case of you see someone and you go with it. If you're a race play dom, you know where those feelings originate from, you know where they come from, and it's like identifying someone who likes their balls being kicked, or somebody who likes to do mummy fetish, or whatever, you know, there's a psychology there. And so to just put it down as to you're racist or you don't understand, or, you know, to summarize it into something so simple and shallow completely disregards the depth of where race play actually comes from. And I think as an Asian person and a Black person and a person of color, or, you know, we have race all the time. Race is a thing that we deal with from young, super young. I think when you're looking at especially British white people, for instance, they don't ever get confronted with race at all. The word race in itself is like ding, ding, ding. It scares people. With our way, it's just going to bring it to the forefront in a subtle, soft way, slowly but surely. And it will happen with an army of white men behind these women of colour saying, no, we believe in colour. That's how it will manifest, because that's what we're essentially doing. We're bringing it creeping it to the forefront with the use of men. And if you think about it, you need white men as much as you need Black, Asian, white people to make the race conversation better.
Absolutely.
So I guess it's a creepy little sly way of doing it, but it's a woman's way of doing it. It's a woman's way of doing it.
Just to sort of interject there, just a minute, how you brought up, you know, Pakistani background and the fact that, you know, you're Indian. When I did my questionnaire and I was asking people about race play, it was literally every single Black submissive and every single Indian submissive from a Pakistani background who was like, I want you to call me these words. I want you to call me these slurs, and it's because of X, Y, and Z reason.
And the God thing comes into, I mean, religion follows race. I mean, the whole Muslim thing is a thing within itself. So Black Muslims, Asians, you break that down to someone who has no concept of race, you know, they just, you wouldn't even know where to start. It's a minefield for someone who's not prepared to be like, to make a mistake, to get it wrong. Like I got it wrong with Marguerite at the beginning. Like, you know, it's about walking through the minefields and acknowledging where you go wrong. And if you're not prepared to do that, which most people who will bash you for racial play will have no concept of race, religion, and what we're actually doing here. But that's what I think is the difference between understanding the world that we're in or just looking at it like it's a business. Like, I really do think that is the main difference. Are you actually here to be willing to understand people, or are you here just to take money and just bugger off? Like, that's what I think. Do you think that's to do with the quality of the people that you attract?
I think. Sorry, go on.
I came into it as business, but as I've gone through the process, I've learned, and I've learned to align myself with the different kinks that I particularly like. And so I did come into it as business, as tweeting all day and making as much money as I can, but over time I've started to get connected with certain aspects of it, and so
exactly
the subs that I now bring are going to be, they're going to be people who aren't in it for 1, 2, 3 times. They want real, you know, connection.
I'm exactly the same as you. I had the same experience. I started online. I thought it was a way to make money, but I have been quickly educated about so many different things, so many different aspects. From the very first submissive I got, he was a white man, and he was one of the people that did come to me for racial humiliation, and he specifically said, I want you to call me a white C word, and I did back then, because I was not very I was young, and I thought, oh, this is cool, this is fun. And you know, a lot of it, what people don't understand also is that we're all on our own individual journeys with what race is and race play is. So you know, in the beginning we might have said all these different slurs and even to different things. If you're talking about homosexuality and infantilism, like any sort of taboo kink, you are likely to have said some really derogatory words in your time. But as time goes on, you have a bit more control over how you use those words, if you still use them. So then it becomes a choice, and you're more educated and you're more informed about what the meaning is behind using certain words, and the power behind some of them. So yeah, it's just really interesting to me how, you know, the different races do have their different wants from each and every one of us here, and the racial dynamic within that as well, how it plays a part. They might not think it in the beginning, but eventually it does, especially if you're playing with somebody who's a different race to you, then that just comes out naturally. It just does.
Unavoidable.
Yeah.
Yeah. My 2 cents?
Yeah.
You've covered so much already, and I think the reframing that is integral to what we practice is such a big point for people to understand. But I guess to go back, the question, right, is about how do we make people understand that this is valid as opposed to people just shutting it down. I guess this comes to like a problem of people's ignorance and their inability to see past an acute issue and understand that there is an individual with an individual's needs at the other end of the issues that they find close to them. It's like they've shut off this barrier. I don't know whether it's possible necessarily to bridge that divide. I mean, we can keep having our conversations, and conversations like this are incredible and super valuable. But I think if somebody's totally shut down to that, I think it's potentially about moving past an acute stage, and that takes a whole bunch of different factors for them to move past that. That's really talking about somebody's ignorance and inability to see something that is actually incredibly valuable. Because if you even listen to a dominatrix who has been doing this work, not even necessarily to do with race play, but just in general, how we interact with people's shadow selves and their vulnerabilities and how we transform that, it's a magical and useful thing for society at large. And if they can't hear that for what it is, let alone adjacent to race play or otherwise, it's just really something that's shut down within them. And I don't know if it is necessarily.
It would be, it's just a really interesting idea that if you are in this world, that you're not willing to hear the different sides and aspects to it, because our community is full of so much different opinions and different things to explore, that if you're just coming in with one sort of tunnel vision, it just doesn't, it makes no sense. It really makes no sense. And I would like to just attribute that to somebody who is new. If you're here and you've been here for a long time, then I would question what you're here for. If you're not willing to open your mind to the scene as a whole, it would make me question that.
Like, just to clarify, I'm okay with people saying, I don't want to do this, but you do what you feel is right for you. That's totally fine if people shut it down. Not for me. But the fact that they can't say the second half of that is really puzzling to me.
Yes, exactly. As you said, we all have limits. But if we have an understanding, then that just makes us move so far forward as a community altogether.
to society.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, closed minds just don't work in this world. It just doesn't work. I think that people that remain closed-minded, you know, they burn out. You know, they stop, they drop out. You know, sometimes that's just because it's too much for people to process. Not everybody can process things on the same level. You know, I mean, I went through a lot of that myself. You know, I've always been very open-minded, and I think I've always been very intelligent to these things and in tune to these things. But even, I mean, sometimes I still go through some realizations that it's like, you know, holy shit, how did I not see that? You know what I mean? How did I get hit with this acknowledgement? And you know what? We have pride, right? So when somebody realizes that they've been doing something incorrect or that they've had an incorrect opinion about something for a long time, we have to face our pride. We have to, you know, recalibrate. So, you know, it's not always easy for people. And so I'm always just trying to just plant the seed and let it flourish and develop on its own, because you know, you can't, like you said, you know, we're all on our own journeys, and people have to come to their, you know, walk their journeys on their own. The best we can do is lead them and guide them and just plant the seeds.
Exactly. Does anyone
lead by
have
example,
any...
I guess.
Sorry, what's
I was
that?
going to say lead by example, I guess.
Yeah.
I think providing you do it properly, you do it safely, you'll always be able to argue your end, because we're talking about something of two consenting adults. So what, you know, C over here wants to say is not really, is of no value. What really shows is that people then walk away and they carry on life as ignorant as they started. They are not prepared to learn, and that's going to affect people in more than just a kink play. It's going to affect them in all aspects of their lives, and it will have been something they'll have been doing for a long time. It's young people as new people into our world, our kink world. I think they're the ones that need to learn the most. That is, you don't need to be ashamed to say how you feel. There's people here who understand you, have got your back. Do you know what I mean? I think it's about being confident, and that's the hardest part. It's always the hardest part of any struggle and fight, is plucking up the balls to just do it, irrespective of what people think. But I think if you've got credentials, if you've got the experience, the backup, the intelligence to know, and clearly we all do, I don't think that anyone can slam you down for it. You'll have an answer. We're intelligent women. We know what we're doing, and we're doing it for bigger than just to swear at people and shout at people and be racist. And so that will show. That really will show over time. It's a really new thing. Yeah, it's a new thing. Race play is new. It's not as, you know, it's not age old. It's new, and race in itself is still so controversial. So we can't even get past, you know, in England how it is, Miss Fox, you know, we can't even say black these days. You know, you'd say everything but black.
It's true.
So once we get past those stupid little things, we can start breaking forward into the real stuff, I think, and that's lead by example, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Absolutely agree. I think that was perfect conversation. I think it's also important to address just how we obviously practice, because some of us are online and then some of us, you know, also do offline. So it's different in the ways that we practice racial humiliation. You know, when we do racial humiliation, we might have an audience of, as I said, like our Twitter followers, wherever, if you're having that one-on-one dynamic with your submissive or your client or your lifestyle partner, it's a lot different. You are obviously subjected to far less more judgment by that one-on-one dynamic than you are online. So it's really important that, you know, the people that do express their love for racial humiliation are stood up for, and, you know, and they do have the support from the community or from people like us who can, you know, say, do you know what, it is okay. It's absolutely okay to like that thing. Like if you're turned on by it or you want to use it as a way to educate yourself, it's okay for you to do that. It really is okay for you to do that. So I hope that conversations like this also encourage other women to have the confidence as well to support your own love, because I know that all of us here, we don't want to also feel chastised for our own loves and beliefs and fetishes. You know, we're exploring it too, you know, so we should not be ever chastised for our things that turn us on, or we want to also, you know, find a way through our own lives and our own experiences through the world, through fetish and kink. So everybody just needs to be a bit more sort of sensitive and understand that everybody has a reason to say why they say what they say, and just let it be. Let it be. Don't be afraid to correct people, but then to try and shut people down for doing things, that's not the right way to do things. We are in a kink and fetish and taboo BDSM community where anything really does go, and it's just something people should be reminded of and remember that. All right.
It's fascinating how women end up getting the slack for basically what men have created. These are male fetishes. If you've got a problem, have it out with the men who call us, but not the women who provide the service. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. That's what shocks me the most, is yet again it comes back to women again, indulging in male fetish, and it's funny.
That's
but women are smart. Women are super smart, and I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be women that are going to do it.
I think that's a really good point to make. Really, really good point to make.
Okay. For another conversation at that point.
It's been awesome. This conversation has been awesome.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for your time and your opinions and your experiences. It's been so enlightening. So I hope that you all feel the same as well. Like, we've obviously had our own experiences, and we do things differently around the world. We've all got different cultures. We've got different interactions. So hopefully, as a unit, we've learned a lot from each other here. I know I have.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Thank you so much for organizing this. This was great, especially following my video. I felt like this was really something that needed to be talked about and sort of clear the air.
I have to say, it was actually Marguerite's video. She actually did a great video about race play, and it was kind of my trigger actually to do something like this, just to see her be so educated and passionate about the subject. I was like, yeah, come on, like, we need more.
Yeah, and I responded to everyone.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you
responded to everyone.
Yeah, every single person that had said, I don't agree with this, you were replying and saying, this is why X, Y, and Z. You were trying to educate people, which I think is absolutely fantastic. That's what we're supposed to do. And because we have our platforms now, we are on social media, we have to do these things. We can't just put an opinion out there and not follow it up. We can't do that anymore. If somebody's going to challenge...
It's our responsibility.
Yes, it's our responsibility. Absolutely.
We're policing our own kink, I guess. We're policing our own femdom world, and that's what we're supposed to do, right?
I had this conversation about... I know that none of us want to be gatekeepers. We can't be gatekeepers. Nobody wants to be seen as being a gatekeeper, but you have to be willing to educate people who don't quite understand, and you have to represent and stand up for your fetishes and kinks at the same time. You're like, who else is going to do it?
Yeah.
Who else is literally going to do it? We have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Admirable way to see it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. It was great to talk to you.
Awesome. Lovely to meet you all. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
By having open conversations like this, we want to encourage all those who wish to explore racial play and humiliation to please do so. Generally, people on social media have not consented to see extreme racial humiliation, so please make sure to play mindfully, safely, and with consenting partners.